and welcome to our Vexploration on communication. I'm Brent Peckover, and I'll be your guide for this Vexploration. Communication is a broad and important topic in leadership. This is the first Vexploration in a two-part series on communication, which will function as a primer that briefly covers some key concepts. Have you heard the saying, "Show me a problem, and I'll show you a communication problem"? Unless you're a hermit living in solitary isolation, communication is a critical task for everyone. Think how many people you interact with on a daily basis. Your boss, your coworkers, your direct reports, your clients, your suppliers, your investors, the general public, your friends, your parents, your neighbors, your spouse, your kids, just to name a few. A study entitled Measurement of Time Spent Communicating by E.T. Klemmer and F.W. Snyder, published in 1972, found that most of us spend 80% of our waking time communicating, and 2/3 of that is spent talking. This study is 50 years old and predates cell phones, smartphones, texting, electronic messaging, and social media. I think it's safe to say that our time spent communicating has only increased, but our means and style of communication have also grown substantially. Imagine your grandfather writing a letter to your grandmother as a 14-year-old young adult, consisting of the characters on the screen. Remember, this letter would have been handwritten on paper and either sent by post or personally delivered. Given how critical communication is to our success, one might think that after 200 years of modern civilization that we would be experts at it. Sadly, we don't have infallible logic, with impeccable memories, and 100% awareness of our audience's surroundings and past history. We communicate using a highly emotional brain that often worries about and seeks to hide low self-esteem and uncertainty. We often are adapting our thoughts while we communicate, so ideas may only be partially formed and may change mid-conversation. We share these thoughts and ideas based on our experiences using strings of words that can be easily interpreted in multiple ways. Being a good communicator is exceedingly hard and takes great practice. Often, we make communication choices that are efficient but are not effective, in which case, we end up either having to address the topic again or cause other problems. For example, I once sent my boss an email asking if he thought I should proceed along one path or along an alternative path. He responded back with an email that simply said yes. Now, I'm sure he was busy, but this wasn't a yes or no question. In an effort to respond quickly and be efficient, so he could move on to the next activity, he wasn't effective, which means he wasn't efficient, because I had to spend more time following up, and he had to invest more time addressing the topic again. So when it comes to communication, sometimes slower is more efficient and effective. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People outlines 2 concepts we want to highlight in this Vexploration. These are, begin with the end in mind. What are you trying to accomplish as a result of this communication? Is this informational, a call to action, inquisitive? If you're not clear on where you're going, you're likely to stray down the wrong path. The other concept is to seek first to understand and then to be understood, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Before you communicate, you need to be clear on why you are communicating. Maybe you need Joe to pick and pack product because of a recent sale, or maybe a customer is upset with something that one of your staff said or did. However, if we start by developing a clear understanding of what we're trying to achieve, we will make better choices. Going back to our example of the customer being upset because of something one of the staff did, there are many potential motivations you may have for communicating. They may include expressing your frustration, anger, or disappointment because the customer called your boss and she yelled at you. You need the staff member to take action to rectify the situation with the customer. Or perhaps you want to coach and mentor the staff member to help them understand their mistake so they can learn and handle the situation differently in the future. So begin with the end in mind. If I was in this hypothetical situation, here's what I would see as the end. The issue with the client needs to be rectified in the short and long term, and we need to ensure the client understands that we are aware of the problem, we have taken action to address the problem, and we are taking action to ensure the issue will not happen again. Assuming this isn't a recurring problem with the staff member, we need to understand what the staff member was thinking when they made this choice. We can then help them see the broader picture of the implications of their decision and help them see other factors they should have taken into account so that we can shape their future thinking and decision making. Throughout this process, we need to avoid undermining their confidence and maintain respect. We also need to update our boss so that she can be confident that we have the issue under control. And if the customer calls back, she can provide a consistent message to the customer, which will give the customer confidence in our organization. Yes, the purpose of communication is rarely one-dimensional, and the choices we make on how, when, where, why, and what we communicate can have far-reaching implications. While we will talk about trust in a future Vexploration, all of our communication should work to build trust and strengthen our relationship with those who we are communicating with. Now that we're clear on where we are looking to finish, we have to choose what medium will best help us reach our goal. Should you post on Facebook, send an email, a text message, place a phone call to their desk phone, or their cell phone? Should you walk down the hall to your boss's office? The choice of medium can strongly influence your results. For example, a text message may be read before an email, but is typically a shorter message than an email. Email and text don't communicate tone, and the phone doesn't transmit body language. When choosing your medium of communication, I recommend you consider the following. How urgently do I need the recipient to get the message, and how important is this topic to them? Do I need them to respond, or am I providing information for their awareness? What opportunity is there for them to misinterpret the information? What is the current level of trust and respect I have earned with them? And am I hoping this communication will significantly change that? How easily can communication be shared with others? And is that beneficial or problematic? Am I communicating with one person or a group? And does everyone need to be involved during the conversation, or do they simply need to be aware of the outcome? Remember, we want to be effective and efficient. Please don't send email and CC the world. Be respectful of people's time. I'm a huge fan of actively pruning recipients off email chains. A word of advice: if you're going to remove someone from an email chain, let everyone know they have been removed, including the person being removed. The simplest way to do this is to move the person to BCC, or blind carbon copy, in your response, and begin your email noting that these individuals have been moved to BCC, so they naturally fall off of future conversation. This avoids the removed individual mistakenly believing no action is taking place because they stop seeing communication on the topic. How often do you practice or rehearse your communication? Do you reread your email before you hit send? Do you practice your presentation before walking into the meeting? Great communicators make conversation feel spontaneous and free-flowing. Take Steve Jobs' famous product reveals, which felt like an off-the-cuff chat between Steve and the audience. His famous "oh, and one more thing" line is a classic example. However, few people appreciate how much effort he put into preparing and practicing for these seemingly casual conversations. When you have to do an important presentation, how many times do you dry run it? 2, 5, 10, if it's really important, maybe 20? For Steve, apparently 50 to 100 times was not unusual, with a variety of test audience participants. Let's shift gears to talk about blame for a minute. While several future Vexplorations will explore accountability, blame plays a significant role in communication. There's no faster way to derail productive communication than to bring in the topic of blame. I've often thought of providing a deck of cards to help groups communicate better, one of which would be emblazoned with the word blame on one side and would contain 3M Post-it style glue on the other, so that it can be stuck on the wall in the back side of the room to help illustrate that blame and the search for who is to blame is outside of this conversation and not welcome here. In one of my early roles, 2 weeks after starting working for the company, I was sent to site to help with a project. Upon my arrival, the program manager met me in the lobby and explained we were going to join a teleconference to discuss the project. You see, the software we sold to the client didn't work with the hardware we sold to the client. On the teleconference were the manager of sales, the manager of technical support, the program manager, the vice president for the division, and myself. The conversation went something like this.
Sales sold them the equipment.
Well, tech support told us it would work.
Well, we didn't realize that was the model you were going to sell them.
Well, this was the model that was capable of meeting the client's usage needs.
In short, there was a great deal of finger pointing and hot potato passing. Everyone involved was worried they were going to get the blame for the mistake. So the conversation focused around how we ended up here, and everyone was trying to justify how their individual decisions were reasonable based on the information available at the time. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I jumped into the conversation and asked, "What are we going to do to solve the problem? We can worry about how we got here later,"
Who said that?
piped in the VP in a deep, authoritative voice. At that moment, the thought raced through my head that perhaps I should have heeded my place in the hierarchy, which was at the bottom, and kept my mouth shut. After a brief pause, the VP continued,
That is the kind of attitude we need around here.
"As I said, blame cannot be welcome in a positive, productive conversation. This is why I frequently remind the teams I'm involved with that we cannot change where we are, we can only change where we're going. Establishing blame will not move us forward, but it will make moving forward more difficult." We will talk more about this forward-focused approach during our upcoming Vexploration on culture. One of the reasons blame derails progress is that it creates a hostile environment. Team members jump back and forth between defend and attack positions. The book Crucial Conversations by Patterson, Grenny, McMillan, and Switzler puts forward the idea that conversation breaks down when participants feel that safety is compromised. When this happens, they recommend stepping out of the current conversation and working to restore safety before resuming efforts to move forward. Safety highlights the interesting role that our feelings play in conversation. However, that is a topic we'll have to continue with next week. Abandon blame and search for a higher purpose. Prepare for your communications, which may be collecting background information or iterating your presentation or emails multiple times. Choose the right medium, be it email, phone, a one-on-one meeting, or a team meeting for your communication, and always work to maintain and build trust and respect. Begin with the end in mind. Think several steps beyond where you are, determine what you need to achieve to get there, and go succeed. I'm Brent Peckover.